first hired Brian Schottenheimer as offensive coordinator, I did a video on the new identity offense, right? What Schotty likes to do. Now, I didn't know at the time Mike McCarthy wasn't going to do none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? I thought we had a new offensive coordinator, a new mentality, right? We were going to kind of lean towards that. I didn't know at the time Mike McCarthy wasn't going to do none of that. But that's one of my most popular videos. I think it's like 89,000 views or something like that. It went crazy, right? With Brian Schottenheimer. So you may have seen this clip, but I want to play this clip one more time to make sure you guys are kind of familiar, and then we'll kind of walk down the lines when it comes to Brian Schottenheimer and this offensive philosophy.
How do you kind of spin that forward to what you have in this collection? What do you want to see out of that group as you move forward with the guys you have here?
I think the biggest thing with the running game, obviously, is it starts with the guys up front. You know, that mindset.
Starts with the guys up front in the running game. All right, so boom. Mental nugget right there when it comes to Brian Schottenheimer.
Physical mindset, the ability where, hey, we're going to control the line of scrimmage. That's easier said than done. It's easy to have that mentality. I think a big part of it, obviously, is getting a guy like Mike Solari to come here and coach the offensive line. A lot of respect for Mike.
Now, Mike Solari, you know what I'm saying? We'll talk about Mike Solari here in a second, but keep cooking, Brian.
He was with my father for a number of years. I coached with him for a year. The stable of backs that we have here is exciting. But when you emphasize things in coaching, you normally get results. And that's just something that we've talked about from the very beginning when I first started talking to Pete, was that was going to be something that you got to have the ability to run the football when people know you're going to run the football. And when you lose that, you kind of become one-dimensional, and that's hard. So, again, we're trying to find some different wrinkles, find out who we are, you know, different ways maybe to attack people. And that's been kind of fun throughout this whole phase 1, phase 2, getting into OTAs.
What are some of the hallmarks of a Brian Schottenheimer?
So they're asking like, what are some of the staples of the Brian run
being
game,
physical,
right? So let me rewind that.
Play action.
So they're asking like, what are some of the staples when it comes to a Brian Schottenheimer offense, right?
Obviously the running game. Being physical, play action pass, but obviously here it always starts with always protect the ball. You know, the
run game, physical, play action pass. Now this is Brian Schottenheimer, y'all, back in Seattle, right? Back in Seattle, he was saying offensive line, run game, being physical, play action, right, and protecting the ball. So this is my dog Rome, CFT in the building, right? So I want you guys to kind of think about that. Put that in mind. That is Brian Schottenheimer back in Seattle. So let's fast forward to where we are today, and let's hear what Brian Schottenheimer had to say at his very first press conference when he was announced as the Dallas Cowboys head coach.
Going back to what Jerry and Steven both said as far as freshening things up, looking for a change. From a head coach perspective, that's going to key in on the offense. Generally speaking, how do you look to move forward as far as modernizing the offense? You talk about solving for the quarterback. What does that look like under a Schottenheimer era?
Yeah, again, I go back to my days with Pete. I think if you go back and you look at some of the things we did in Seattle, obviously the starting point for me would be things that our players do well. You're always going to start with that. If your system's not flexible enough to do what your players do well, then you're probably in the wrong business. But I'm a big believer in cut splits. I'm a big believer in shifts and motions to distort things. We're going to do a great job of marrying our runs and our passes and make those look the same. I'm proud to say that 2 different times in my career as a coordinator, we led the league in rushing.
Led the league in rushing 2 different times.
And they go hand in hand. The running game and the action passing game go hand in hand. But I would say there's a tempo element that we're excited to mix in, that our players have all shown an affinity for. And let me expand on that a little bit. Why do players like tempo? Well, they like tempo because it allows them to play free. Mm-hmm. You guys have heard some of the play calls. Dak could rattle off 4 or 5 of them right now. They're pretty long. So when you go fast and you're playing on the ball, these guys, it's a little bit more like pickup basketball, you know. And those would probably be the biggest things that I would say from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah. So one, he said motion. I know that gets Dallas Cowboys fans excited, right? Because I know a lot of you have been asking for motion. Now you have to have motion with the purpose, but we all know motion has kicked our ass numerous times, right? So I know a lot of Cowboys fans want to see motion. And if you follow Jay Tuck for the longest, what is the one thing, y'all? Y'all know I absolutely love when it comes to our offense. It's tempo. I've made so many damn tempo videos. I probably got about 40 of them things up, right? So you mentioned, motion. He mentioned tight splits, right? Not having CeeDee Lamb flexed all the way out on the damn boundary. Having tighter splits, compressed sets, right? Motion. But he also talked about marrying the run game and the passing game. So that way you can't tell it's a run and you cannot tell it's a pass, right? And I did a video, I forgot what video, I got to dig back in the archives. We drop videos daily. I remember I went through a film session and I blatantly told you guys, based off the alignment, based off the personnel, right, you can tell whether it was run or it was pass. I think when we went trips right, it was like pass like 90% of the time, like something crazy like that, right? So you want to be able to have that element of surprise. Now, I saw someone who posted this in the chat, right? It says, I'm not buying it, right? I'm not buying it. I see someone saying all the right things, T-Jack, and I get that, right? I get that. I really do, and I understand where you guys are saying for it's the Sunshine Anderson. Heard it all before. All your lies, baby, this thing isn't working now. That's old school, right? I get it, Cowboys Nation. We have heard it all before. And this is why I said that this might be a two-part video, because after I dug into his Jets time, Georgia time, Seattle time, Dallas time, I dug into pretty much every press conference that Brian Schottenheimer has had, because I also wanted to see how does he deal after losses, right? But when I dug into Brian Schottenheimer, he is saying the same thing from the beginning to now, right? So here's what I'm trying to say. When it comes to Brian Schottenheimer and the distinct difference between him and Mike McCarthy, and there's probably numerous more, right? But from a philosophy standpoint, Mike McCarthy cherished the passing game, right? But was open to the run, okay? He was a pass-first guy. We know what he did when he won the Super Bowl. A lot of 10 personnel, kind of used these hybrid type of running backs, right? But Mike was a passing guy. When it comes to Brian Schottenheimer, y'all, he is a running guy. He is he is Mr. Run the damn ball, right? He is Mr. Run the damn ball. It is in his veins. We can go through numerous press conferences. He's saying the same thing he's saying in 2025, back in 2018, 2017. The list goes on and on. So he believes in the run game. Now, I explained this numerous times, right? There's few different approaches. You can use the passing game to set up your run, which that was more the Mike McCarthy approach, right? Brian Schottenheimer is the opposite. He wants to use the run game to open up the passing game. Now, will that remain true when we go off to Philadelphia opening night and you got to go against this defensive front? We shall see. But listen, y'all, when I tell y'all this, the run game is coming. It's run game or die trying, right? Now, it's not just Brian Schottenheimer. It's also his offensive staff, right? His offensive staff. And people got to think, Clayton Adams wasn't the offensive coordinator out there in Arizona. We had to give him a better offer to snatch him away from Arizona. But why did Brian Schottenheimer want Clayton Adams so bad? Well, let's listen to the interview from Clayton Adams when he met with the people at DallasCowboys.com.
Big, strong, fast, tough, smart. There's a lot of different words that you could use on the interior there. We got a long way to go, and we got to get a lot better in regards to, running the football. I think that first and foremost, you do whatever you have to do to win the game. And so I don't think that you go into a game and say, like, well, we're just going to run it 70 times and we're going to see, what the score ends up being. You got to do whatever you can to win the football game. But creating explosives in the run game is a recipe for creating explosives in the pass game. And hopefully the hope is that by
Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that?
pass
Y'all hear that?
And
What is it say? Saying the same thing.
explosives in the run game is a recipe for creating explosives in the pass game. And hopefully the hope is that by being able to move the line of scrimmage, you're able to protect differently than just having to drop back all the time. Because I know one thing is it's a heck of a lot easier to block these D linemen when they don't know it's a pass.
Right.
So, that's one of the things. And the other part of it, and I truly believe this, is that when somebody can impose their will on you in the run game, it's a disease for the entire team. And it affects everybody in a negative way. And conversely, it affects your team in a positive way. It's like, all right, we're going to go out on this drive and it's going to be bang, 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 and then boom, over the top. Or, maybe you did that on the last drive and you come out with a play action that hits a deep crosser or something like that. I just think it's a recipe for disaster if you can't run it and they can run it on you.
If you can't run it and they can run it on you. What was the Dallas Cowboys' Achilles heel last year? Everybody let me know in the chat. We cannot run the ball and everybody could run the ball on us. I said this many times last year after we played the Baltimore Ravens and they just lined up and ran the ball down our throat with Derrick Henry. I don't think Mike McCarthy can even commit to doing that in Dallas last year if he wanted to, right? But then you have Brian Schottenheimer with this philosophy of run to set up the pass, being tough, being physical at the line of scrimmage, right? Marrying the run game with the pass game, play action, right? Then you went and got this guy out of Arizona who was an offensive line coach who wasn't an offensive coordinator. You went and plucked him for the reason why. Because his philosophy, y'all, matches yours philosophy, and he has been proven at the NFL level to establish the run game. He did it in Indianapolis, and he also did it in Arizona. Now, let's get to the main topic. You got your offensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden you need an O-line coach, right? And there's numerous people around the NFL you could have plucked as an offensive line coach. But the Dallas Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer went to the college ranks for some odd reason, which the Cowboys really haven't done in previous history, right? They went to the college ranks to get their offensive line coach. Well, why, right? People were asking me, Tuck, why did we go get Coach Riley for our offensive line coach? Well, let me introduce you to Coach Connor Riley. So when it comes to Coach Riley, y'all, and I'm not sure if you guys can see this, let me make it bigger here for y'all. But Coach Riley, he is more than an offensive line coach. So if you run down his history, he started off as a run game coordinator, offensive line coach in Nebraska, Omaha. They was 4th in the nation in rushing. All right, 4th in the nation, that little Nebraska, Omaha. You know what I'm saying? A small school, right? Then he went to Sacramento for a little bit, but then he went to North Dakota State. And that's when things really changed for Coach Riley, right? He went to North Dakota State, 15-1 national champs with Coach Klein, okay? And each of the years, 6 years, when he was at North Dakota State, they rushed for 235 yards average on the ground, right? And 286 yards per game in 2018, which was top 10 nationally. Y'all pick up what I'm putting down, right? Riley's offensive line was ranked highly in the fewest sacks allowed at North Dakota State. 10th in 2016, they were ranked nationally, and 8th in 2018, and won 5 national championships, all right? And then boom, all right? Then he goes to Kansas State. And then in 2020, during the pandemic season, just like Lou was saying, North Dakota State is run game U, right? North Dakota State is run game U. 2020 at Kansas State, he had no previous starters because they're kind of going through a pandemic. He had one of the top offensive lines in the Big 12, right? Kansas State was second in the Big 12 in rushing touchdowns, was 29. I think the leader had 30, right? They had 30. Yep, that was Trey Lance's school, and Hunter Lupke, right? Yep, so Kansas State was second in the Big 12 in rushing touchdowns at 29. I think the leader was 30, right? Coach current Dallas Cowboy and Cooper Beebe. Cooper Beebe, we did it, y'all. And Cooper Beebe won Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year. Cooper Beebe was one of the most decorated offensive linemen in Big 12. And at what position was Cooper Beebe decorated at? Left guard. Left guard. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about, that's a whole nother show. But Cooper Beebe got down at left guard. You know what I'm saying? He got down with the get down at left guard. So we'll talk about that in a whole nother show. Probably bring my dog Lou in for that one. But Cooper Beebe was him at left guard. So if things hit the fan at left tackle, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Cooper Beebe, right? And then Riley's offensive front surrendered less than 2 sacks per game over a 5-year average. That's the longest streak in Kansas State history since 1985, right? And so what ended up happening, right, for the Pop-Tart Bowl, you know, they said, you know what? Let's see what Coach Riley can do, and we are going to let you call the plays and let you be the offensive coordinator. All right? So when Coach Riley was the offensive coordinator at the Pop-Tart Bowl, right, K-State rushed for 257 yards versus a very talented NC State defense, right? So they ran all over NC State. So he is a guy that also has run game DNA, right? But let's go ahead and listen to Coach Riley talk about, you know, what he was doing, his philosophy as he geared up to be the interim offensive coordinator for that Pop-Tart Bowl versus NC State.
What does your style look like as an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, it was interesting. I know there's a lot of people who thought that we were going to come out in that bowl game and run the triple option, and obviously we did not. Our philosophy, obviously, in order to be successful, we need to have the ability to throw the football. The complement of our run game, it creates a lot of
what? Yeah, the complement of the run game. He hasn't even met Schottenheimer yet, y'all. He's already saying the same sentiments of Schottenheimer and also our new offensive coordinator in Clayton Adams, marrying the run game with the pass game.
Creates a lot of one-on-one matchups. You know, it's a simple game of addition and subtraction sometimes. When you look at our philosophy, it's got to be complementary football. Do we have to run the ball in order to be successful? Absolutely. Do we want to be very efficient in the pass game and also, along with that, very explosive in the pass game? There's no question about it. So I'm looking to continue to grow that. The offense that you have seen the last 5 years has been a continual evolution of all those guys involved, and I'm certainly excited to continue that evolution.
So that is Coach Riley, y'all. That is Coach Riley. And so after that Pop-Tart Bowl, he got promoted to being the offensive coordinator of the Kansas State Wildcats, who was, I think they were 11th in overall in rushing last year. And they averaged like 213 yards on the ground with DJ Giddens, which we're all familiar. Now, yeah, you already saw it, bro. You've already said it. This is going back in the film. I went back in the trenches. This is Cooper Beebe. This is Cooper Beebe, y'all. This is Cooper Beebe putting in work. Cooper Beebe right there at left guard, and you got Deuce right there, running back. Big, physical, in the trenches, right? So this isn't just pillow talk when it comes to this coaching staff, right? This isn't just, I'm going to say what the people want to hear, right? These guys, from our head coach, from our new offensive coordinator, to our offensive line coach, this is a fun snow game versus Iowa State, so I just put it out there, right? To our offensive coordinator, to our offensive line coach, all bleed running the damn ball. It's not a fake facade. It's not something that's just going to be made up for hype. They really believe in running the damn football. It's just who they are. That is who they are. I felt like last year it may have been pillow talk. Mike McCarthy, it may have been pillow talk. But Brian Schottenheimer, from the moment he's gotten to Dallas, y'all, he went out there and got guys that think and believe in the run game just like him. So it doesn't have to be a situation where Schotty has to sell you on this, right? Schotty doesn't have to sell you on my philosophy. They already believe it. It ain't no selling. There ain't no arguments. There's nothing, right? It's going to be a situation where the main core of our offense really believe in running the damn football and marrying the passing game with it, right? Now, Lou, you said something. We'll talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, okay, that's a cool story, bro, but we're missing the main ingredient. But, y'all, I'm kind of getting excited because I don't think this is going to be a situation where this offensive staff will give up and abandon the run. I feel like if we see the Dak Prescott 45 pass attempt games, it's because shit's really hitting the fan and we got to go and get up out of there. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like this team is going to approach this offensive season with getting the run game going because it simplifies everything. And I didn't talk about this when it came to Coach Riley. Also, if you go to ND State, North Dakota State, also Kansas State, the thing that he also did very well was he managed the time of possession, right? Managed the time of possession there. So I feel like, y'all, it might be a little bit different, but this team has a DNA with their coaching staff to go out there and run the damn ball. And I think it's going to